Good morning. This is Dudley here at Artistic Artifacts. I have to stand in front of my quilt. We are here to discuss quilt as you go. As you know, if I'm here, Judy's overseas having a good time and everybody else is doing their thing. So quilt as you go is the perfect thing to do with your Bernina embroidery squares. Any square you embroider of the smaller size, you can hook them together and then put a larger quilt together. I have done that in Sharon's example in the newsletter. There was a t-shirt quilt. I took the t-shirt quilt and quilted each piece, each top individually, and then quilt as you goed, if that's a word, the blocks together. This is another example of how I use quilt as you go. I made each block individually, and then I quilted just the block and its backing. So the backing matches the vase. And then after I made all 9 blocks, I used a method I'm going to show you in about 2 seconds to hook the quilt all together. So each 9 block was quilted just individually as an 18 by 24 inch block. And then I hooked them together after they were finished. So back to, it's a perfect thing to do when you have your Bernina blocks or your Bernina samples or whatever you're doing on the embroidery machine and your blocks are all 10-inch blocks. You can hook them together this way rather than trying to put a huge quilt of stuff together. So over here is where we're going to begin. First of all, you have your quilted blocks. So this block is quilted front and back in front of this quilt. So I took this block back in front of the quilt. Front and back are machine quilted. We have some classes on that coming up, so you can learn how to make it really pretty. But this is, so I've done this, and then I had to mathematically figure out how to get my top together. So I did a 14 by 14, 2 14 by 10s, and a 10 by 10. So my blocks are not all the same size as in this case. And then I'm going to hook them together. So in order to hook them together, I have pre-cut everything. Sorry, Chris, I'm over here now. You cut 2 strips. You cut a 1.5 inch strip. I need to make sure I save the right ones. Sorry. Should have organized this before I... Okay, so
it's not live.
Oh, good. More proof I'm just human like everybody else around here. There we go. Yay. Okay, so I've cut 2 strips out of my black fabric. There's the one I wanted. I cut 1 inch rotary cutting, put it down, open the cutter, cut, close the cutter, and then I cut 1.5. So that's 1.5 inches, as you can see. And then I have ironed it in half, so it's got a fold on it. Okay, the next thing you do is prepare your blocks. So I've already prepared my blocks. I did this before I came over here too. Is you want to, before you cut your blocks to exact size, you want to draw a line around and sew on that line. And then you want to sew 1/4 inch in from that line. A scant 1/4 inch, because we're going to cover these 2 lines, and then you're going to sew a line in between the drawn line and the 1/4 inch line, as you can see here. So it's 1/8 inch. And what you're doing is you're hooking all of your sides together so they don't stretch and nothing frays when you go to sit at the machine and put everything together. They're all together tight. No frays, and then after you do that, you trim it down to your exact size, because your exact size doesn't go, unless you have it trimmed exactly perfectly, it won't go together perfectly. So the next thing, so I've already done this sample, I've already done this one, and we're going to go over and we're going to sew on the white. We're going to put the 1 inch to the back and the 1.5 inch folded on the front. So let's go to the machine. Line it all up, all 3 layers. You can leave a little bit, we can trim that. And we're going to go. Line it all up. Line it all. Make sure you have all your layers together. This helps because you're actually, by sewing through the 3 layers, you're now sewing through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers.
So you're sewing the black onto the front and the back at
I
the
am.
same time.
Yeah, let me show you. Okay, so I've sewed on the top. I've actually sewn the folded piece on top, and then I've sewn just the 1 layer piece to the back. Then, sorry, Kyle, I'm coming right back. Next thing I'm going to do is sew back to back. The back layer, the 1 little piece, I'm going to sew right sides together with the other piece I'm connecting. I'm not sure that was worded very well. So I'm sewing 1 block perfectly measured with just the 1 layer of black. The wrong thing. And you can just cut your tails off. Alrighty, so no pun intended. You can now open it up. So I have sewn. So this is what the back is going to look like. This is the back of my quote quilt. So now I'm going to pull it open, and because everything is 1/4 of an inch sewed perfectly, the insides should meet. So the inch line underneath the back here is 1/4 of an inch sewn in, 1/2 inch of black, and then another 1/4 of an inch sewed in that you can't see. So then you take your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on your top pieces and you lay it, and you see how perfectly nicely flat that lays, just like that. Then I'm going to take this piece that's already folded over, so there's a completed edge, not a raw edge, and I'm going to pull it over the top here, and I'm going to sew down the line. With all my fingers in Kyle's way here, sorry. And I'm going to try to see what I'm doing, show you what I'm doing all at the same time. This is not stay down. Oh, what did I do? I hit the button. Don't do that. You see, I'm pulling it over. Okay, the old age eyesight and the arthritic fingers and such. Don't touch the front of the machine. Okay. Okay, so now what I have done is I have I've completed this entire seam. I've hooked this block and this block together. Everything is hooked together, both front and back. Then we're going to go.
Were you using a particular stitch?
I increased my straight stitch. Most machines come at a 2.5. And when I machine quilt, just straight machine quilting, I go to a 3.5. This I did at a 3.0 just
But it was
because
a straight stitch. It wasn't like
it was 100%. It was, now you could do that. You could go down this with red thread or something and make a pretty pattern if you wanted to, or you don't have to use black fabric. I didn't use black fabric on this. I used an Australian. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to trim. And I didn't get it perfect, but that's okay. And for those of you who paid attention, yes, I just rotary cut with both hands, sorry. Alrighty, so now, couple tricks. One, I did this intentionally because I knew where I was going to be, is I don't have to line up my seams. But if I turn this around, you have to pin carefully when you do this because you want your line to line up across this way. So on the quilt I showed you originally, I pinned very carefully to make sure that I wasn't doing this when I went across the seam. The other thing I did that I didn't point out that I did is I very carefully made sure my blocks were all going the same direction because I just am like that. I want my stripes all to go one direction. So this is back to how we're going to put this together. We're going to go ahead and put this this is a 24-inch square, and part of my method of madness is a couple of the quilt guilds around the area will collect, shameless plug, will collect 24-inch square quilts of anything, samples, trial. It's a great size to practice anything you want to practice on because they will give these to the NICU units and they cover baby isolettes with our donated quilts. Hence the 24-inch. Yes.
When Chris is asking you questions, could you repeat those questions, please?
I will try to repeat that. Alrighty. Yeah, my brain works way too fast and not really it happens in a random matter. How's that? Alrighty. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go the long way. So I'm going to put my 1-inch strip on the back. I'm going to put my folded in half, nicely ironed 1.5-inch strip on the top. Back to the sewing machine, Kyle. And he's good. He didn't give you whiplash.
Maybe a good view of that area.
Okay, sorry. My apologies. Keeps us all humble.
We've got great texts and we keep them busy.
Yeah, oh, we do. And what's the wait time right now? 3 weeks still?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're working on it. I believe we're sending one tech to learn more. And they do great things.
Lucy, to answer your question, there was the question asked earlier was about what kind of stitch was used, which is just a 3.0 straight stitch.
This is nothing fancy. They gave me the fancier machine. I could have done this in the brand new 325 that I believe they have a bunch of here in the store. They'd be happy to talk to you about. There's a new 325, is that correct, Chris? And a 335, am I correct? Okay, well, they would love to talk to you about those or the one I'm currently sitting at.
The nice thing with the 3 Series machines is not only are they good starter machines, but they're great for your retreats and travel because they're much lightweight, but they have a lot of the same features now as the higher level machines.
Yeah, I need. Thank you. Sorry. Alrighty. So now we have.
Crystal thinks makes this look really easy.
It is really easy.
So I think Crystal needs to use this technique on her blocks that she made in her last class with you.
Or this technique would be great for what's behind me. But
well,
that's another.
We'll talk about that in a few
minutes. We're going to discuss that. Hi, Crystal. Okay, so now I'm going to do exactly what we did over here. I'm going to bring just the back strip forward, and I'm going to go back to back again, back of the black strip on the back of the one side to sew it together. So I'm doing right sides together. Right here, I'm lining up my ends, so in theory, I shouldn't have to trim it perfectly square. We all know how that theory goes. Oh, I'm doing that through the foot. I knew that. That's why he keeps doing that. So now, come on. They should have given me a dumb foot. So if you increase, go up in size in your Berninas, these feet will help you do many magical things when used correctly, of course. Still sewing right sides together, the backing of both of these. And then we're going to nip and tuck and pull. Make sure we're square here. Make some of the quilting world nuts. Ooch and scooch is a technical quilting term. Alrighty, so back to where we were just a few minutes ago. Deja vu, as they say in the biz. Now I'm going to open it up straight. So I've sewn the back together again. Over here. Sewn the back together again. And now we're going to pull the front side over. It'll lay flat again if you sew your 1/4 inches right. It does help if you cut accurately and sew accurately in this technique. But if you don't, you make it work.
You don't need to press it over?
I don't. I've already pressed it. I've pressed, you could. But then I would be jumping more for Kyle to have to keep track of. No, I've already pressed the top layer, so it's already folded to the edge that I need. So all I'm doing, it's already closed. Right sides are already out. Son of a gun. Don't pick your foot up off this pedal. Oh, I know what else I didn't do. We'll talk about this in a second. Alrighty. Now, evidently, I got nervous on the first one. What I do after that is to make it symmetrical, I just go back down the other side so that you have, on my first one I did at home, I have a stitch line on both sides of the black. And that just helps secure it. It also makes it look very symmetrical. This one has a stitch line on one side and not on the other, and I will go over and remedy that in a few minutes or at home. Okay, so I'm going to go down the other side of this. No. We can do the same thing over here. Alrighty. So now your quilt as you go is all stitched together. You have it, you want to hear? You have your front, and your back looks really good too. And you can do different If you're really smart, you could do different colors for your backing so you have a two-sided quilt, as I like to say here. The only thing I would add, and I don't know what I did, shucks, I don't know what I did with them. It doesn't matter. No, it was the other black. When you bind these, they don't bind with a traditional 2 1/4 inch binding. It looks a little narrow, so it looks kind of silly with your 1/2 inch internal thing. So I cut a 2 1/2 inch binding that I left in my bag, and it doesn't matter. So I will bind with a wider binding that's the same width as this particular thing, and you can see that on my quilt over here. I just chose a much thicker binding so that it wasn't narrower than this, because you want your binding to be seen properly. If you get too narrow, it just, for whatever reason, I think it doesn't look great.
So somebody commented that this would be a great technique for t-shirt quilts.
Yes, I have done many. If you look on Sharon's advertisement and newsletter, if you still have it, the yellow and gold one was a t-shirt quilt. And then I did his sister's t-shirt quilt, where the front is the t-shirt was the front, and the back of the t-shirt was the back of my Quilt As You Go. So yes, it's great for t-shirt quilts because you can get around your t-shirts a little more accurately and easily. Alrighty, another place it would be really good is, this is a class for October, and I sewed this whole thing together and paid to have it quilted. But each block is the right size, so you could quilt and go in all of these little spaces here and get this quilt together perfectly with Quilt As You Go. This is a block we're going to do in class.
So do you want to talk about the class that you're teaching?
I can. This is a So Kind of Wonderful Floral Felicities quilt, and it's all curved piecing. I did not pin anything together until I got big long rows. I know that's making some people twitch, but the way you sew it is so simple. And then after you sew all the blocks, this is a block we're going to do for the first class. For sure, it's a 2-day class. We may or may not get through the block in one day because it's just a lot of pieces. It's not hard. It's very simple, but it's not hard. And then after you get all this done, you could then quilt as you go around this block to hook it to this block, is where this technique could be very good.
Or you could make those individual blocks by doing that, and
you could just make
a wall hanging rather than this beautiful whole quilt that you
Yes,
made.
I have at home, and I didn't bring it today because I didn't think about it. I have made the bunny rabbits. I took Tilda's bunny fabric and made 4 bunnies. And then a friend of mine loves hummingbirds, so I've made hummingbirds. Can't find them in the quilt at the moment because I'm having a brain cramp. So I made from my mother's door at Green Spring, and then this other friend who's moving to a facility of such, I put 3 hummingbirds in a row, and I flipped one, and that's going to be on their door. I used Charlie Harper hummingbirds around it, and I've been chasing my tail instead of quilting hummingbirds. So it should be here in the store, not next week because I'll be gone, but it's very shortly you'll just see the hummingbirds. So if you learn how to use this technique, you can pick out of this what you like. You can do dragonflies only. You can do ladybugs. I haven't figured out the bees real well yet, but we can work on that. So that's what's coming here at Artistic Artifacts. I also have Chris is going to do the rest of the announcements then because she picked up my paper.
So thanks, Dudley. I think you got a lot of good comments, and people are looking at it as, oh, I could use this. Somebody said that they could use it on an attic windows quilt that has been lingering in her UFO piles. So I think you've inspired us to try it with some of those blocks that we've either, I mean, it would be perfect for, I think, Barb's doing some free motion quilting class coming up. And if you've got quilt sandwiches that you've done your free motion quilting, you could put a really nice piece together with those and not just linger them like mine are in a drawer somewhere.
Or make them out to 24 inches and give them away.
Give them away. So we wanted to make our announcements today because That's who we are. We like to make sure you know what's coming up. This is the end of the shop hop. Ends on August 31st. It's been a great summer. We've had wonderful visitors from all over the Mid-Atlantic region. We're ending the shop hop with our 5th Saturday special. So if you're hopping, even if you've been here over the summer, come by. Starting Thursday, it's an end of bolt sale with 40% off the bolt if you finish the bolt. It could be a brand new bolt, or it could be something from the sale fabric, and you would get 40% off the sale price. So it's a great way to stock up if you want quilt backings, if you're doing charity quilts, or if you like a new design and not sure what you want to do with it yet. It's, come in, finish the bolt, and you've got some in stash. For those online, our 5th Saturday special is 25% off our curated bundles. We have a demo of a new garment system that everybody who saw it at Bernina University, it's Luterlo. Why I can't keep that in my mind. Lutero. We're 2 demos of the system for making patterns that fit. And then we have Seth coming. There is still a few spaces in both of his class and on his trunk show on Friday night. And Friday, that is the weekend of the 19th and the 21st. With him this year, he will have the designers from Free Spirit that he works with. And between the 3 of them, they'll talk about how they take his very small mixed media art and convert it into the beautiful fabrics. And his fabrics on the mark we're expecting them any day. And you can pre-order those online now. And then we end the month of September. God, how did it get to be September? With a Bernina Stitchwise. It's Q20 free motion quilt. Q series free motion quilting. So if you have a sit down hoop frame or the long arm Q-matic, it's free motion quilting with a Bernina educator. It's a 1-day class, and you can pick either the 26th or the 27th. All of those are on our website under workshops and events. So come see us. We've got lots going on. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Dudley.